We're here in the Bristol Firehouse today with Assistant Fire Chief Brett LaRose. And today, Brett's going to give us a tour of the firehouse. And beyond that, this is really a way for the community to better get to know the firehouse and the pending bond vote and what was the onus behind this. And so we're going to have a bunch of questions today. And a lot of people in the community haven't seen the inside of the firehouse and don't know some of the current issues. But Brett, this particular project just didn't happen within the last year. This has been ongoing for years, hasn't it?
That's correct, Sean. This project actually kicked off in 2004. It was recognized back then by retired Fire Chief Mark Bouvier that there was a need for an updated facility, whether it was a renovation to our existing space or possibly looking at an alternate location to construct a new facility. There was a committee formed made up by members of the fire department, members of the select board at the time, and community members at large, such as yourself, representing today's committee. Mm-hmm. In 2006, at the town meeting, the taxpayers of Bristol appropriated $15,000 to have a feasibility study done. An architect by the name of Pacheco Ross out of New York put together a study which was released in 2008 to the members, or to the committee members of the fire department. They looked at several different sites around town, looking at their feasibility. This site was looked at. And then in 2010, those particular sites around town were released to the members of the fire department. In 2012, the select board came back to the fire department and said, we would like to get this project underway again. We would like to take another look. So a new committee was formed, and that committee's goal right from day one was to answer the question, could an updated fire facility with renovations and a possible expansion happen right here at 32 North Street? The original Pacheco Ross study that looked at this as one of the sites looked at this lot only that the existing firehouse sits on. That study did not take into consideration the possible purchase of an adjacent piece of property, whether it was to the south or to the north. So with that in mind, the letters were written to the adjacent property owners of the fire station here, asking for their permission if we could just, draw some lines on a piece of paper. Could we consider your piece of property in a study? We just want to answer the question, could an updated fire facility be built at this location with the use of one of your properties? After that study was done, all the property owners were very graciously responded to all of us, and our neighbors to the south were willing to let us consider their property for a possible expansion. So in August of 2012, the property owners to the south agreed to allow us to move forward with this. Negotiations began for a purchase and sales agreement, and in December of 2012, a purchase and sales agreement was signed with the Bilsons, who lived to the south of the fire station. And now on March 5th, at town meeting, the taxpayers of Bristol will have before them a bond for the purchase of that piece of property and architectural and design fees only. And the bond vote has nothing to do with renovations or expansion at this time. We just want to move forward, if we can, with the purchase of the piece of property, and by doing that, we'll secure the future of the fire station at this location. And when I say that, if we have that piece of property, that means we can stay here today, tomorrow, 50 years from now, 100 years from now. So that's kind of how we got to this point, and that's why we're here today, just to give those watching out there an opportunity to see our historic fire station, but look at some of the deficiencies of this piece of property and why a renovation and expansion is needed.
I can certainly see why you'd want to, and the town would want to keep this into that project just to the historic nature of the building, yet there are some deficiencies that, irregardless of whether this project happens or not, are going to have to be brought up to code. And one thing I do want to point out is that, correct me if I'm wrong here, but the plan that was done by the architect, Asher, that's a conceptual design right now. That's not necessarily the final design, correct?
That is correct, Sean. The brochure that was sent out that community members received recently, and what they saw on the September 17th special select board meeting presentation is a conceptual drawing only. The architect, we had a very small budget. The town appropriated $3,000 in 2012 to hire Vermont Integrative Architecture to do this feasibility study, which his goal was just, could we build a facility to meet our needs combining these two pieces of property? And the question was answered, yes, we could. Will we have to make some sacrifices? There are a few sacrifices we will make, but what's really important to the fire department is to not only continue to utilize our historic fire station, but to remain in the downtown village, to be a part of the community. Because if we were to move outside of the village, we will lose that connection with the town. You know, just kind of on a little side note, you know, being here in town when the weather's nice, you have the doors open, the kids stop by with their parents as they're walking by. It's a great opportunity for us to interact with the public and show them our firehouse and show them all the fire apparatus that the taxpayers have supported over the years. And also fire prevention is another big thing that the Bristol Fire Department, another service we provide. The elementary school kids, they walk down from the school, they get tours of the fire station, we educate them in fire prevention, the do's and don'ts of playing with fire. We have other station tours throughout the year, you know, the Boy Scout programs, the Girl Scout programs, other community organizations. They come here and, you know, they take a walk through the facility and we educate them about the business of firefighting.
So is the thought that if this particular project were outside the kind of town limits per se, some of that connectivity would be lost?
We believe that connectivity would be lost. I mean, I'm going to use the Bristol Rescue Squad as an example. About 10 years ago, they were able to build a beautiful new facility up on the Bristol-Moncton Road outside of the village. Mm-hmm. And when they did that, they admit they lost some of that connection with the public. And when I say they lost that connection, I mean, they have a building that works for them, but because of its geographical location, you don't have the public who can just walk to that facility and interact with them on a daily basis, which we have that benefit right here in the downtown of Bristol.
And beyond that, thank you for that explanation too. As far as, there's several buildings in town that the fire department currently owns, correct?
That's
Not
correct.
only do we have 1 and 2 in the back here, but there's 3 on Fitch Avenue, correct?
That's correct. So the historic fire station, which we're standing in right now, was constructed in 1897 by Newcomb Munsell, who founded the N.H. Munsell Hose, Hook, and Ladder Company, which we now know as the Bristol Fire Department, in 1893. So again, the building was constructed in 1897, donated to the town of Bristol, and has been serving our community ever since. In 1972, the building, which you'll see here momentarily located out back, which is known as Station Number 2, was constructed and paid for by the members of the Bristol Fire Department. At the time, we had space needs then. We were housing apparatus around town at different locations just to accommodate our space needs. So the members, out of their own pocket, came up with the money. They constructed that building, and that has been serving our needs ever since. Once again, in the early, it was around 2000, 2002, when the Bristol Rescue Squad moved out of town, they asked us, because they knew we still had space needs. They had their old building on Fitch Avenue. They offered it to us. So the N.H. Munsell Hose, Hook, and Ladder Company, which is our private nonprofit organization of the Bristol Fire Department, where all our fundraising is done, all our donations received come into, money that the members themselves put in their time to earn, that organization bought that building to house additional response apparatus. So we are currently utilizing 3 buildings on 2 different lots, and that makes fire department operations difficult in itself when it comes to communicating to one another, organizing a response. So
that'll be all housed in this location if the bond should pass and this moves forward?
That is correct. All 3 buildings, we will move into one central facility where all our operations will take place, and coordination of efforts will make life much more easy for the fire department. So let's talk a little bit about the building layout itself of the historic fire station that was constructed in 1897. What we're standing on right now is the original tongue and groove hardwood floor that I'm not sure if the camera is able to pick it up, but it's like a roller coaster in here. It's very heaved. It's obviously been exposed to significant water and moisture over the years. The structural membranes of this floor are in somewhat disrepair. Several years ago, reinforced steel beams had to be put in the basement to hold the weight of the fire apparatus up because we were literally concerned they would go through the floor. The foundation this building is sitting on, like every foundation here in the historic downtown village of Bristol, is a stone foundation. So, but again, if looking at this old historic floor here, it needs a little bit of attention. As you can see here, under this particular piece of apparatus, these planks actually were just replaced here about 4 or 5 years ago because the ones previous had rotted right through and the tire was falling through the floor of the piece of apparatus that used to be parked here. So those were reinforced and built up just to, again, hold the weight of the fire apparatus up.
As far as conceptually, I mean, the tin ceilings, I have a feeling that will probably end up being restored. That's more of a decorative thing, but certainly adds to the touch of the firehouse here. But if you could give the public an idea of conceptually what this will look like. Are there offices planned for here in this area, or is this strictly going to be for apparatus as well?
Great question, Sean. So we will utilize this space down here. In the conceptual plan, which the viewers have seen and received in their mail, we will turn this space down here into office spaces. In the back will be a community type room or a TV room, if you will. And also, we would like to park our historic antique fire truck in this building, which currently we have to store in a box trailer because we don't have any place to store that beautiful piece of history that belongs to the NH Muscle Hose Company. Again, in the conceptual plan, we can foresee this wall here to the south being opened up, going into a entryway, if you will, of the building. We kind of called it the transition piece from the historic fire station into the apparatus bays that would be constructed in the conceptual plan. Also, in the back, we foresee a 2-story addition going on the back of this building to give us additional space in the back for his and her restrooms, for shower facilities, and upstairs, which we'll talk about momentarily, to expand our meeting and kitchen area. So this building will be opened up to the south and to the east in the conceptual plan.
Should we head downstairs and take a look at some of the issues related to the basement?
Sure.
Great.
So just as we're on our way down to the basement, perhaps this is just a good opportunity to also show our viewers kind of our utilization of this current space. I mean, in addition to parking our apparatus down here.
This is where you get ready and...
Well, no, this is actually our gear drying rack because out back, due to the high moisture, we find it easier to dry our gear up here, but it's usually stored out back. We had an incident, a structure fire, a house fire this past Saturday night around midnight. And as you can see, we use our common area where we typically sit and socialize also as a drying rack for our salvage covers.
Yep.
But you know, the utility sink over here is used to clean our dishes we eat with, and also used to clean our respiratory protection devices we wear. We're utilizing spaces for multiple different types of things we have to do around here.
So we're here in the basement, Brett, and I can understand what you're talking about. I see the labyrinth of supports here, and it looks like this has been cobbled together over the years.
That's right, Sean. Just to support today's fire apparatus and the weight, obviously this old structure in its original state couldn't support the weight of today's fire truck. So support beams have been put in place where they've been needed over the years. As you can see, some steel I-beams were put in place. I think this was done approximately 25 or 30 years ago. But as you can see from the moisture and the salt coming off of the apparatus, you have the corrosion and the rust that's forming here. Over here you have the air tank that not only blows the noontime horn, but it's also the air tank that supplies the air for the air brakes on our fire trucks that are parked out back. That air tank right there was constructed in the 1920s, and the Division of Fire Safety, they won't even inspect it due to its age anymore. So, but if you look over here, you can see this is kind of our utility area. You have the compressor that fills the air tank, our electrical boxes. You won't find many grounded outlets in this facility. In some circumstances, we still use the old knob and tube is still in operation. As far as heating system goes, we have an old forced hot air system over here, and you may notice the ductwork is in very good condition. Well, that was done by one of our members of the fire department who is a plumber. He donated his time and installed all the new ductwork because the other ductwork had literally rotted and fell off the ceiling, again due to the moisture and salt content. Also over here in the corner, this fire station has one restroom facility. It has one commode.
I hope that's not it.
The commode upstairs, you have the drain pipe for it here, and due to the age of this building, you can see the straight pipe going into the ground. After that, we're not quite sure where the septic system is. I'm sure it's an old cesspool that's made out of stone under this floor somewhere, probably has some old boards on top of it. But our most senior members, gentlemen who have been in this organization for over 60 years, they don't even know where the septic system is. But again, looking structurally, you can see we have an old stone foundation. The sills, they're rotten, in need of replacement. But you look at the basement here, it kind of gives you an idea structurally from the ground up that this building needs some attention.
Well, after that thrilling tour of the basement, let's head upstairs where actually some of the action happens here.
Sounds good. Let's go.
So Brett, tell us a little bit about this space. It looks like this is more so the brains of the operation, if you will.
That's right, Sean. This is where kind of everything administratively, socially really happens up here. This is our meeting room. This is our training room. This is our kitchen. This is where those type of things happen. This is also our operations center. When we have those large incidents, the natural disasters that we've experienced over the years, the floods, the ice storms, the wind storms, this is where those operations have been facilitated out of. So
does this take as far as a regional kind of flavor when those things happen? Do people converge here?
Yeah, they do converge here. The public, when they don't know what to do or they have a problem, we're kind of that first line of defense, if you will. They call 911, they come to the fire department. If we don't have the answer, we can usually find the answer for them. So, and when we conduct a large operation like an ice storm or a flood out of this building, it makes it very difficult. Over here you can see a couple of desks and our pool table, which also doubles as one of our conference tables. Makes it very difficult to coordinate an operation because you also have public here, other members of the organization utilizing the kitchen space or socializing or perhaps watching television. So having all those different elements of a response all in one room makes an operation very difficult.
Sure.
And not quite as effective as it could be if you had perhaps some offices or separation of space.
So will there be offices within this space up top as far as the proposed plans?
In the conceptual plan, what we looked at doing, such as downstairs, we talked about moving that south wall out and again the east wall here. So there would be actually an expansion of this meeting room. We would open up this southerly wall here to expand this meeting space. Over here, the counter in the kitchen area would go away and actually would be pushed out the back into that second story addition. Also up here we would have his and her bathrooms, again to meet code. So this room would be all opened up, all the administrative type things, the computers, The file cabinets would all be moved downstairs into what would be the administrative space.
Sure.
So we'd have a large area to host trainings, hour meetings, and possibly even, host maybe a county meeting once in a while, because typically Bristol has to forego being the host of any type of county fire association type gatherings because we don't have the space to do it. So.
And this would accommodate those type of things?
That would accommodate those type of events that happen, very infrequently, but they do happen, and it would be nice to play host once in a while.
Sure, sure. All right, shall we head out?
Sure.
Heading
Heading out to Station 2. F9 has responded to Station 3 to get heavy. When you get there, let me know if you need additional personnel, and if you do, hook me up at Station 1.
Message received.
Bristol, like all Addison County Fire Departments, is part of a mutual aid association, part of a mutual aid agreement to support other towns. We have this particular special piece of apparatus, heavy rescue, which provides vehicle extrication, which is located
Something, excuse me, that not every town has?
That's correct. Many of our communities do have that particular type of resource, but not every town. And Bristol is specialized in that particular resource since the early or late 1970s. Formerly it belonged to the Bristol Rescue Squad, and then the fire department took over that service. So right now we have firefighters who have responded to station number 3 up on Fitch Avenue. We've had some have had to come here and get their personal protective equipment. We have communication issues taking place right now because we're trying to coordinate the vehicle leaving the station on Fitch Avenue, come here to pick up people who have to get their gear, plus they're trying to communicate with Starksboro Fire Department to see if the vehicle's actually needed at this time. Keeping those response apparatus up there at Station 3 on Fitch Avenue, having vehicles down here makes our operations difficult and cumbersome.
Sure. Well, speaking of vehicles, should we head in?
Yeah. This is a building we call Station Number 2. This building again was constructed in 1972 by the members of the Bristol Fire Department and paid for by the members of the Bristol Fire Department. This building houses what we like to call our frontline apparatus. Engine number 1, engine tanker number 1. These are two what we call Type 1 or Class A pumpers that were bought and paid for by the taxpayers of Bristol. That is a piece of apparatus they fund basically almost 100% of as taxpayers. They're obligated to provide us with that type of equipment to enable us to do our job. This vehicle here is our utility truck, a support vehicle that rolls to or responds to all of our emergencies. It carries up to 5 individuals, and it also carries essential equipment, including some of the personal protective equipment in which our firefighters wear.
So a truck like that couldn't even fit in the old firehouse, correct?
That's correct. Today's fire apparatus, as you can see, are extremely large. They weigh a great deal. I mean, this truck over here weighs 65,000 pounds. This facility up here, the old historic Station Number 1, just couldn't accommodate such a vehicle.
And it looks like, just due to the way that they're parked, it's a little precarious just trying to get out of here. It looks like it's quite a maneuver.
Yeah, our operators, our drivers, they're extremely talented individuals, and because of their skills, they're able to navigate these vehicles out of here. But it is extremely difficult. In a little bit, we'll just do a quick demonstration of how difficult it is to get our utility vehicle to squeeze it out between the bumper of this truck here and the post between the garage doors, navigate out the front here, and get past the building. So,
I take it you're one of those qualified drivers.
I'm a qualified driver on the utility vehicle. So I'm not going to claim to be an expert driver of one of these larger pieces of apparatus.
Sure, sure. Also, from what I understand, just seeing some of the equipment, you do some calibration and testing out here?
Yep.
The fire department, we meet the first Wednesday of every month. That's our monthly business meeting. But that's also an opportunity for us to get together and go through every piece of equipment that is in service, something we could potentially use on any type of incident in which we respond to. We go through every compartment on every vehicle. We run every light. We run every generator. We check every hand tool. We check every saw. We run it. We run our air compressors, our hydraulic tools. We just want to make sure those pieces of equipment are always in operation, so when we're called upon, they're ready to go. And we do have some special pieces of equipment, some technical pieces of equipment, one of which is what we call a multi-gas detector. That is the type of detector, the detector we use if someone calls us and they report a carbon monoxide alarm activation in their home, which is very common. That's the piece of equipment that measures those gases. We currently have 3 of those gas detectors, and we calibrate those either in here, or sometimes we have to move to the fresh air. And the reason I say move to the fresh air is whenever we fire up one of these vehicles, and before we even get it out of here, same problem in station number 1, firefighters are exposed to here in these facilities potentially lethal levels of carbon monoxide. If they were to remain in that environment without breathing apparatus on, I mean, it's like I said, it's lethal levels of CO we're exposed to, and if they sat in here for any length of time, they could cause permanent damage.
And to mitigate that, besides opening these doors up, and you don't necessarily want to do that in the middle of the winter for too long, would you need a air purification system in here? Is that what it would entail?
Part of the modernization of a fire station would be putting in some type of air handling system. Many people, you've probably seen them in pictures or on movies. They look like a tube that's stuck to an exhaust pipe on an apparatus that pops off when they drive out. Well, the newer technology actually would allow for large ventilation systems to be mounted to the ceiling, which when vehicles are started and CO levels reach a certain level, they automatically turn on to vent those toxic fumes in which we're exposed to. So, again, to protect the health and safety of our firefighters.
Right.
So a clean room would house this piece of equipment right here, which is our air compressor that fills the air cylinders or bottles that you see firefighters wearing on their backs. That's the clean air in which we breathe and which we count on to protect our health when we go into toxic environments or potentially toxic environments. Also within that clean room would be an area of clean sink to clean this equipment that these bottles are attached to, our self-contained breathing apparatus, the air mask that we wear on our face. That is the only thing this room is used for, is to clean that type of equipment. I mean, unfortunately, due to the fact that this particular building has clean equipment, and as you can see over here, has gas cans on the floor and the station generator, so we're kind of defeating the purpose, if you will.
Right, right.
So it's important to keep these type of things separate from toxic materials such as gasoline.
Well, with that said, that obviously is an issue. Is that something that, if we weren't bonding this and it doesn't get passed, will you still need a clean room?
We will still need a clean room, but in our current configuration here, we don't have the space to construct a clean room. As you can see, we're very tight in space as it is, and there is just no room to add on anything at this time, which is why, in order for us to improve our facilities and expand, the acquisition of the adjacent lot is needed.